Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel, and if you are returning, thank you as always for being here. You mean more than I can tell you. I have some patriotic DIYs today. Some of them are super easy, some of them a little bit more involved. So let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. All right, I have a piece of glass that I must have gotten out of a frame at some point. It's been in my stash. I'm not sure where it came from, to be honest. And then I have a couple of these 8 by 10 canvases from the Dollar Tree. They are the same size as the glass. And I am setting about with a flathead screwdriver to pull out the staples that are holding the canvas onto the frame. So I'm just kind of getting in underneath it. Be real careful when you do this that you don't put your fingers in front of it, because if you slip like that, you are going to hurt yourself. So be very careful if you opt to do this. So as I was doing that, I realized I should really prep my glass so that it can dry while I'm working on the frames. So I've got some isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol, that I'm using with a paper towel to just clean my glass. I have it propped up on my little risers that I usually use for my paint pouring. And I figured that that would be a good way to keep the glass up off the table, only because it makes it easier for me to pick it up and it keeps it a little cleaner. So these are napkins, or that was a pack of napkins that I had just picked up at my local grocery store. And I pulled one of them out of the package and I am removing the second ply. A lot of times napkins will have 3 plies depending on the type. This one is a 2 ply, so I'm just removing that second ply. You always want to just have the one when you are working with Mod Podge, which I will be doing. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want this lined up on my glass. I am going to apply it upside down because I want the right side to be the glass side. So this is going to see through from the back of the project. Hopefully that makes sense the way that I'm describing it, but you'll see in just a second. So I've got my Mod Podge. It doesn't really matter what kind of Mod Podge you use for this. I believe this one that I have is matte. And as I was doing this, I was wishing I had actually done the iron-on method, where I would have painted my glass with the Mod Podge first, let it dry, and then iron the napkin on, because I was getting a lot of wrinkles with this the way that I was doing it. It was kind of bunching up a little bit. And then I decided, you know what, I kind of like that look. I was trying to pull it a little bit. You got to be real careful because it will tear very easily. Even just with the paintbrush itself, I ended up tearing it in a couple of places. So you just have to be real gentle with the napkin. But ultimately, I actually liked the way that it looked, where it was a little bit wrinkled in places and bunched up. I don't know, just it gave it a little bit more character. And you know, when a flag is flying in the wind, it's, you know, or I don't know, it looked a little bit more distressed. I don't know. You'll have to tell me what you think. But once I had it all painted, I was able to go ahead and pull off the remaining napkin because it's wet, right? And so I did it very carefully. Always remember that this is sped up about 2.5 times so that I don't bore you to tears. But yeah, so just go slowly, because I was very mindful not to tear what was on the glass. And you kind of got a sneak peek there at what it's going to look like when it is all dry. So I did go ahead and just set that aside so it could dry. And then I went back to my canvases and removing those staples. So once I had all of those staples pried up, I came in with a needle nose plier and I just kind of twisted them out the rest of the way. And just worked my way around and pulled each of those little staples out. Once I had them all out, canvas came right off and I was ready for my next step. All those little staples go in the trash, and then I'm going to grab a couple of pieces of parchment paper. At first I thought maybe I'd be able to fit them both on one, and it wasn't quite large enough, so they each get their own. Now, I don't normally use gloves, but I decided because I had just done my nails that I didn't want to get antique wax all over them. So I did pull out my latex gloves and went ahead and put these on, and they worked like a charm. I had actually purchased them to do resin, which I have not done yet. So eventually, I don't know, I've gotten myself a little freaked out with the resin because I got myself a little respirator mask and everything, but I need a really good ventilated area, and I'm afraid that my craft area just isn't that. But at any rate, I grabbed a baby wipe and I'm using that to apply all of my antique wax to my frames. This one was a little bit loose, so I was just trying to make sure it was lined up. Now you can see this is opaque, not opaque. A little translucent. You could see my hand through here. So I was thinking about what to do about that. I'm just using some sandpaper here to clean up the edges of the glass where we had a little bit of a, where we tore, excuse me, the napkin off, that excess napkin. Vacuumed that stuff up. But my solve right now is my Adirondack white chalk paint. And I am literally just painting the same side that I had Mod Podged. And you're going to be able to see some of those wrinkles and folds that I was talking about a little bit more here. You can kind of see where it bunched up a little bit. But again, I actually ended up liking the effect. But I'm painting the back side of this so that you can't see through it anymore. It'll give it a nice solid background. And I guess if anybody were to look at the back of the piece, it would just look a little bit more finished, perhaps. I'm not sure. But once I had that relatively dry, I went ahead and grabbed my frames, which are dry now, and I was trying to figure out which one I wanted to have as the front and which I wanted as the back. The back one is laying down upside down, right? So that the inside of it is there. I'm laying down my little flag thing, and now I'm trying to decide what to put on it. This is a transfer from Chalk Couture. I decided I was going to use this, and I've got this sparkly black chalk paste, I guess is what they call it. It's a paste from Chalk Couture, and I'm going to be using that. So I am fuzzing my little transfer here so that it's not too sticky, so I can actually remove it from my glass when I'm done. Once I have that all fuzzed up, I'll go ahead and apply it to the center of my glass here. And the rows of the stars and then the stripes obviously were helping me get that lined up and centered. I went ahead and pressed that on down, and then I was ready to use my paste. So I went ahead and grabbed my little squeegee. I've got my paste there. I guess I'm going to open that up first, and then, oh no, I do have my squeegee in my hand. I was right. So I opened that up and just made sure that I wasn't wasting any of it, scraping off that little thing. There we go. And I'm just going to work pretty quickly with the paste. You want to work fast because it dries pretty fast. And if you don't work quickly, it ends up drying inside the transfer. And then when you lift your transfer up, it pulls the paint up with it. So always want to work quickly. I've learned that the hard way. But I think this came out super cute right there. So I've got my little USA established in 1776, and now I'm going to adhere my glass to the frame. So I've got my E6000, and I'm also going to be using hot glue, so I've got that immediate bond to help hold it until the E6000 dries and cures. So I'm just putting it around the corners. So I'm going in a couple of inches, and I'm leaving that center area on each side open for some hot glue. So I'm only applying the hot glue where I don't have the E6000 because I'm trying not to mix the glues in case it impacts the way that they bond. So laying my glass back down, and now I am going to do the same thing with my other frame. So I'm just getting it all lined up, making sure that it's good. I'm going to flip it over, apply my glue exactly the same way that I just did on the bottom piece. And then I'll be flipping it back over and just making sure that it's all nicely aligned and sealed and good to go. So coming in again with the hot glue. I'm not sure why I decided I needed to show you this again, but I did. So, but are my nails cute? Did you see the little buffalo check on my fingernails? I get so excited about little things like that. But hence the reason for the gloves a little earlier. All right, so now I've got this all adhered, and I'm just thinking about how I want to finish off the edges, right? Because we've got a piece of glass sandwiched between the two layers of frame, and so the sides and the top aren't the prettiest thing. So I've got this burlap ribbon that I've pulled out, and it was a little bit too wide, like just a smidge. So I decided I was going to cut off a length that was going to serve me for wrapping the entire outside. And now I'm going to trim off basically the wire edge of the ribbon on both sides. And that's going to provide enough. It actually worked out being exactly the size that it needed to be in doing this. So I just cut that off on both sides. And now I have my burlap strip that I'm going to be able to wrap around the entire frame and kind of finish off the look of all of that. So I used a very tiny bit of glue there. It was kind of like a smear as opposed to a bead of glue, if you know what I mean. So I'm just adding a little bit more at the corner, holding that down tight, and then I will continue on around. And so just at the corners, and I'm sorry, I'm a little out of frame there, but I just continued it around, adding a little, like a smudge, literally like, I don't know how else to describe it, a smearing as opposed to a bead of glue, just very, very little, simply enough for it to be able to tack down onto the frame. And I'm only doing it at the corners because I don't want there to be globs of glue and having glue seeping through the burlap or whatever. I want it to be as nice and neat as I can make it. So now I've gotten down around to the edge where I started, and I'm gonna try and figure out how best to line this up, and I'm gonna trim it off. I wanted to trim it, oh, there was a little bit hanging over from where I trimmed off the wire edge, so I cleaned that up. But I want this to match up to itself so that there's no bump on the bottom, so that if I choose to have it just stand on the shelf, I can. Now this will stand upright, and it can also be hung because it's got that kind of little ledge on the back of it. You could also add a little hanger to the back, but I found that it wasn't really necessary. And there it is. Let me know what you think of this one. DIY number 2. All right, I had pulled these mason jars out of my stash, and then I've got my crimson chalk paint, Adirondack white, and my ocean blue. And then I was thinking about them. I'm like, you know what? We like to drink out of mason jars. I don't know, maybe we're weird, but I was thinking about the ones in my kitchen, and they have a smaller neck to them and they're harder to drink out of. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go and take these upstairs and swap them out for some that have the narrow neck, and that will serve me well for what I'm trying to do here with my project anyway. And a happy thing happened. I didn't even know that these had these on here. Can you see this? They've got little flag stars on them. Had no idea. Only 2 of them had it. I searched and searched to see if I had a third one. I didn't. It was more like a harvest one or something. I don't know. But I thought that was so perfect. It was meant to be. So I am taking my crimson chalk paint first. I'm going to paint the first one, giving it one good coat of paint over the entire mason jar, just the outside, bottom, sides, top, whatever. The second one, painting it with the Adirondack white by Home Decor. These are all plaid paints, but they've got 2 different brands, the Waverly and then the Home Decor. And then this again is the Ocean. So once those were set aside, dried, I let them dry overnight. I came back in with my sandpaper, and you might have seen a little smudge on the white jar. I accidentally hit it when I was painting the blue one. I hit it with my hand, and I didn't bother to fix it because I knew I was going to be sanding it. So that's why it looks like that. But I was like, I'm going to be distressing it anyway. So just kind of hitting it with the sandpaper in places where it might have gotten bumped if it were in some sort of a carrying case of whatever. I don't know. And then also, so anywhere there's the upraised lettering also. And of course, on my little flag star on here, I'm going to make sure that I sand that so that it is going to stand out and be noticed and super cute. And same thing on the blue. So just roughing it up a little bit and making sure that I am enhancing the areas that I want to have stand out. Then I grabbed this scrap piece of twine from my stash, and I'm just going to make a little bow, or attempt to, around the white one. Y'all, I have so many issues trying to make my bows straight. Here I'm trying to do it upside down. I've talked about how I do that sometimes. It was still crooked. I couldn't. Okay, I'm getting rid of the sanding dust. So now I'm like, okay, how can I get this thing straight? So I finally decided, let me try bunny ears, because you can see it's all twisted, right? You know what? It's crazy. I tried the bunny ears, so 2 little loops tied them together. Would you believe that that is what it needed in order to be straight? Crazy, right? So I will forever have straight bows now because all I need to do is bunny ears, apparently. I don't know. But I'm tying the ends of my twine so it doesn't come unraveled and just gives it a cute little neat appearance. On the long end, I'm just putting my knot about where I want it. Just kind of trying to line it up with the other one, and then I will trim that off. So that is all set. Super cute. Now you can certainly put bows on the others if you want to. I opted just to do it in the middle one. I was inspired by a painting that I keep seeing. It's a painting with red, white, and blue mason jars, and it's got these little white flowers in them. They might be hydrangea in the picture, I'm not sure. It made me think of my baby's breath. So I'm putting baby's breath in here, and I was searching my stash to see if I had more of it, but unfortunately I only had enough for the one jar rather than the 3. So I've got the baby's breath in the middle, and then I opted to do some boxwood for the other 2. And I actually think it turned out really, really sweet. If you have like a little long tray that you could fit these in, I think that would be really pretty. I was thinking it would also look nice just as a centerpiece on a table. So if you're trying to do something to dress up your home for 4th of July, if you've got a party coming up, this is such an easy and cute way to dress up your table and help it be a little bit festive. I think this looks awesome. And I hope that you like it too, but let me know what you think. DIY number 3. All right, I have a couple of wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to be using one. I decided I was going to do a small wreath. I've got that leftover Deco mesh and then also some pipe cleaners. I picked red. I could have used silver or blue or white or whatever, but I opted for red. And I'm going to fold these in half. I have 6 of them here. I'm going to attach them wherever there is a crossbar, I'm going to call it, on the wreath form, and then halfway in between each of those crossbars. The crossbars I'm putting on the inside circle, and then the others I'm putting on the outer circle. And I'm going to do that all the way around the wreath, just making sure that I've got 3 on the inside rung and 3 on the outer rung. And on the inside rung, I'm just kind of helping anchor them so that they don't slide the way that the ones on the outer rung are going to end up doing. Hopefully that's making some sense. So once I had those all on, I'm going to go ahead and grab my Deco mesh, and I'm gathering the end of it into my hand. So I've got it all bunched together, and I'm going to put that down in one of the inner I wanted to call it a twist tie, chenille stems or pipe cleaners, and twisted that off. And I just continue to make poofs around and twisted them off with each chenille stem. I'm just alternating between the upper and the lower as I work my way around. And then I knew that it needed to be a little bit fuller, so I continued around on the inner edge once I had gotten all the way around, and just continued to use the same chenille stems to anchor it. Now, my plan was to go around the inner edge, so to speak, go around the inside, and then I wanted to go around the outside, but I realized I didn't have enough of the Deco mesh to make it all the way around. So I trimmed it off right there once I'd gotten all the way around the inside. And I'm going to take this off, and here I'm still trying to decide if I can make poofs with it or do something, because I know that that outer edge needs something more. So ultimately, I decided I was going to let it curl up on itself, and I was going to cut it into 3 different pieces. And this was kind of like a trial by error. It took me a couple of tries to figure out what was going to work the best. But here I've got it curled up on itself, and I'm just going to cut it down the middle. So I'll have 3. They're not poofs. I don't know what I want to call them, but I folded them in half, and then I tucked them in on the outer edges, so to speak. So here I am folding. I'm going to fold it in half, tucking it in. I'm letting the loop stay on the inside and then the ends pointing outward. I just kind of thought, oh, it'd be fun, kind of like, I don't know, things exploding, right, for 4th of July. I don't know. Yeah, trying something new. So then I went to my stash and I grabbed these little guys. I don't know what they are. I had gotten them at Christmas time at Hobby Lobby years ago. They make me think of fireworks. So I will use them at Christmas time in some of my projects, but then I like to use them at the 4th of July because, again, they just remind me of fireworks. So I'm adding some of these in to help give balance. I don't know if you noticed, the shape of this was looking a little bit not rectangular, triangular. That is the shape. So I'm just trying to balance it out a little bit by adding these to the long sides of the triangle, so to speak. So hopefully I'm making some sense. So just making sure that I've got those all anchored in. I used the wire within the stems of these to wrap around the wreath form and get them situated. And then I'm going to come back in now with hot glue and just make sure that they are nice and secure. So just right over the stem of it where it meets the wreath form, and just making sure that it's all set and nice and secure. Once that's cool, I was able to flip it back over. I'm fluffing up all of my little poofs, whatever. And now this is a sign I'd gotten from the Dollar Tree. I'm just picking one of these out. I just literally just ripped it off the hanger that was the ribbon that was holding it together. And then I took off the other hanger, and I'm just looking at how I want this to be positioned in the middle of my wreath. And then I'm going to grab a chenille stem and use some hot glue down at the bottom there to attach this right there in the middle, because then I'll be able to bend those up and use those as an attacher, so to speak. Also grabbing another chenille stem. I'll actually grab another one after this. There were those 2 holes from where the hanger had gone through, and I'm going to use those to my advantage, just using some chenille stems through there, which I will use to anchor this piece. So I'll have 3 little sets of chenille stem. Once that's dry or cool, there we go, that I can stick down through the middle of the wreath, and then I'll use the wreath form to anchor it on the other side. So just making sure that I'm pulling all of those little stems through, and I'll wrap them through the wreath form and just get those tied off so it's nice and secure. Just checking to make sure that it's positioned properly, and then I will tighten that one last one so that it's the way it needs to be. Now these I'm twisting off, and I decided to twist them together to create a hanger. Those are the 2 that are at the top. So that'll create a nice little hanger, and it'll make sure that it's at the top of the wreath as well. And then the other one, I'm just twisting it around and tucking it in so that it doesn't end up scratching my door or my wall or wherever I might have this hung. So there is that. Now, I felt like it still needed a little something more, and I normally would do the ribbon first, but I was not sure that I needed ribbon until I had that little sign in the middle placed. So I did grab some of this silver ribbon that I have from Christmas time. I get most of my ribbon at Costco because I absolutely love it, and I think it has a great deal. It's usually like $8 for a 50-yard roll. Can't beat it. So once I had these cut and dovetailed, I'm just pinching them in the middle and tucking them into the chenille stem and tying it or twisting it off. So frequently I'll use more than one ribbon in each of these little locations. I just felt like there was a lot going on here with this wreath and the colors, so I didn't think it was necessary. But then once I'm all done, I'm twisting off the chenille stems. I'm just using a paintbrush to twist it around, just to roll it down, and tuck it down into the base of the where it's holding the ribbon, just so that it's nice and finished. I don't have chenille stems sticking out. And that's it. Let me know what you think. Now it's time for a shout out timeout. Beautiful rose. I love this. It is so nice. And wow, Kathy. Kathy has been busy as a bee, no pun intended. That's fantastic. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. All right, this is from the Dollar Tree as well. It might have been from Dollar Tree Plus, but I think it was just Dollar Tree. I honestly can't remember. I've had it for a while. Been trying to figure out what to do with it. I'm just pulling out the backing for the little frame parts, those little hearts, and I will get this all situated on my paper. I didn't realize that they were not symmetrical, so just be aware of that because I ended up having my hearts upside down. Not upside, well, I was able to trim it up. They didn't fit properly when I went to put them in the frame, but you'll see in a second. But I just got them lined up. I'm tracing around them, cutting them out. And so you can see it's like not quite fitting. So I just went ahead and trimmed it off in the area that it needed to, and then tried to put the back on. You saw I tried to put it on backwards, and anyway, I got my little blue gingham check paper in there. Look how pretty that is. I love it. And now for the home, I am using the crimson again, and I've just got a flat paintbrush, and I'm going to go real slow here. I want to make sure that I am not flicking paint, because it's really easy to spray this when I'm trying not to hit the sides of my letters either, because you might be able to see that they are painted white. So I don't want to get red paint on there. And so as a result, I try to very lightly go off the edge of the letter without hitting downward. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but sometimes when you do that, you end up spraying the paint. And so I was trying real hard using a light touch and just making sure that I was being careful. And there you go. Now, once I set it up, I was admiring it and then realized that it had some nicks. I was just going to try and touch it up a little bit with my Adirondack white chalk paint, but then realized that this is a bit brighter of a white. So I ultimately ended up touching up the entire white portion of the sign. So again, just a small flat brush and just taking my time, and that's it. But let me know what you think of this one. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the project, remember to please give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite, and until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.